One of the things that Spring Boot does, above and beyond other libraries, is integrate well with build tools. Maven is a very popular choice in the enterprise for building Java applications. This is what a typical Maven build would look like with Spring Boot. So here you can see we're importing from a parent POM, and the parent POM is provided by Spring Boot. The version that you reference here is the version of Spring Boot that you're using. It also refers to all the versions of third-party dependencies that we know work well with Boot. You're free to override these and choose your own, but by default you can just declare dependencies and not worry about the versions, and most things will work. If you don't want to use the starter parent, you can actually import it as well. This is handy if you have your own corporate standards. Next in this we have the artifact ID, the thing that we're creating. Then we declare dependencies. Most of the time Spring Boot dependencies are declared using these starters. We'll discuss starter POMs a little bit later, but here you can see that we're saying I want a web starter, which is basically all the dependencies that make sense for a web application. The final piece is the Spring Boot Maven plugin. This provides a bunch of tools that allow you to run your program directly from Maven or build an executable jar file. Let's have a quick look at the Maven file in practice. So here we have an example project that I've imported into Eclipse. Let's jump over to the POM XML view and look at the raw format. So you can see I've got a parent POM defined here. This is just importing the Spring Boot starter parent. We can jump into that and have a look at what it looks like. You can see it provides a whole bunch of sensible defaults. Things like resource filtering and sensible defaults for Maven plugins such as the jar plugin or the test plugin. This parent extends from the Spring Boot dependencies project, and this is the one that you can import directly if you don't want to use the parent POM yourself. The dependencies project declares all types of dependencies that Spring Boot is known to work well with. So you can see we have a whole bunch of version numbers declared at the top, and then further down each of these dependencies is actually imported. So here you can see logback is available as a dependency management section. This doesn't mean that you get all these dependencies out the box, but when you declare them, you don't need to worry about the version. You can just say, I want to use logback classic in this particular group, and the version number is implied from the dependency management section of the parent. The final item was that build plugin. Again, you don't need to specify the version because this is implied from the parent. The Spring Boot Maven plugin provides a number of goals. The executable jar we'll cover later, but let's have a look at how the run thing works. If I type Maven Spring Boot :run, then the plugin kicks in and the application starts directly. It compiles the project, then runs it. This can be really helpful if you're working on something outside of an IDE and you just want to see how it looks. So here's the application in a web browser, and it's just the hello world that we saw earlier.